Boots Netflix book versus series. What the show keeps, changes, and sharpens. Boots Netflix book versus series is more than an accuracy check. It's a look at how the series translates Greg Cope White's memoir The Pink Marine, one boy's journey through boot camp to manhood into television rhythm, compressing time, inventing incident, and keeping the memoir's stubborn core. Finish the thing and don't lose yourself doing it. Boots Netflix book versus series. The premise and the clock. On screen, Cameron Cope reaches Paris Island in the early 1990s, hiding his sexuality while the unit grinds through inspections, Rifle Week, and the 54-hour crucible. The show threads in NCIS pressure and a unit tragedy to raise the stakes across 8 episodes. In the book, Greg Cope White enlists in 1979. He joins on the buddy system with his best friend Dale, lies on the intake form about being gay to avoid disqualification, and learns, one punishing station at a time, that fear can be managed if you keep moving. Boots Netflix book versus series keeps the closet, the endurance, and the need to belong. It moves the timeline forward and builds a serialized spine around events the memoir treats as background weather. Boots Netflix book versus series. Narrator versus protagonist. The series gives Cameron an inner angel voice that surfaces at crisis points, especially when he chooses to stay. The memoir is first person and unsparing. White's voice is wry, present, and pointed about compromise. He admits he lied at enlistment because the system left him no other path. TV externalizes interior monologue. The book lets narration carry it. Both insist the mask is the point, and the tax. Boots Netflix book versus series. The buddy system. In the series, Cameron enlists to hold on to Ray, whose perfectionism cracks under pressure. In the book, White follows Dale, a decorated friend switching into the Marines from the Air Force. He joins because he's drifting and wants to finish something in his life. Same engine, different names. Loyalty drags both boys onto the yellow footprints. Boots Netflix book versus series. First night at Paris Island. The series stages the midnight bus, the screaming, and the yellow footprints as initiation. It even folds in a story from Sergeant Sullivan. When he enlisted, he was so thin that his recruiter taped a flattened lead pipe above his groin to push him over the minimum weight at the scale. A grotesque, funny survival trick he shares with Cameron as proof that skinny kids can make it. The memoir tells the same ritual beat for beat, but as Greg Cope White's own memory. He's the one being patched together with the hidden weight to pass entry requirements. A moment that sets the book's blend of terror and dark comedy. The show reassigns White's real-life anecdote to Sullivan, using it as a bonding moment and a way to show Cameron that even the toughest Marines started scared and underbuilt. Boots Netflix book versus series. Instructors and structure. On TV, McKinnon, Sullivan, Howitt, and Captain. Fajardo split the drill instructor ethos into types: punitive, empathetic, compromised, and reform-minded. Sullivan's closeted past becomes a full counter-arc to Cameron. The memoir treats DIs as a weather system, a study in method. White catalogues cadence, inspections, the gas chamber, the rifle range, and the way Marine training engineers fear before normalizing it. The show personalizes the power structure. The book documents how it works. Boots Netflix book versus series. Drama versus accumulation. The series has a prank war, promotions and demotions, a recruit's sudden death during Rifle Week, and NCIS scrutiny. It also threads in a visible gay network inside the platoon, Jones, and gives the season a courtroom-adjacent hum. The memoir is self versus system. The drama unfolds through ritual and fatigue, rather than plot fireworks. When White zooms out, it's to notice the other outsiders around him, by class, race, or circumstance, rather than to script them into an ensemble cliffhanger. Boots Netflix book versus series. Masculinity and the closet. On TV, the finale argues that strength is keeping your voice while carrying others. Cameron refuses an administrative exit and finishes the crucible on his terms. On the page, White's thesis is steady and practical. Being gay is not a limit. Finishing is the answer. The lesson arrives through 1,000 small choices, not a single climactic one. Boots Netflix book versus series. Endings that say the same thing differently. The show needs a last act, stay or go, and finds it. Boots Netflix book versus series. The verdict. Boots on Netflix holds true to the spirit of the Pink Marine, fear, black humor, the raw need to belong, while building its own drama. The show compresses time, invents Ray, Sullivan, Nash, Santos, and Jones, and drives everything toward a single decisive finale. The memoir is leaner and rougher, fewer dramatic spikes, more day-to-day grit. Both argue that manhood isn't a costume. The series makes that point with one climactic choice. The book earns it through 1,000 small ones. Greg's memoir ends at graduation, a hard-won rite of passage with no epilogue about service or war. Netflix pushes past that finish line, dropping its Marines into the early 1990s backdrop of Iraq and Kuwait and hinting at the lives they might lead beyond Paris Island.